Chapter 12 of the Bird Study Book. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Bird Study Book by T. Gilbert Pearson. Chapter 12. Teaching Bird Study. A little after 6 o'clock one July morning on the campus of the University of Tennessee, I stood near the center of a semicircle of 25 school teachers whose expressions indicated a high state of excitement, and whose 50 eyes were riveted on a scene of slaughter but a few feet from them. For 5 minutes we had scarcely moved. During this time the lives of 32 specimens of animal life had been blotted out. The perpetrator of this holocaust was a creature known to scientists as Spizella socialis, called by ordinary people chipping sparrow. Its victims were small insects which but a moment before were disporting themselves on the grass. Preparation of teachers. One teacher expressed surprise that a bird could find so many of these choice morsels in so short a time. She had never imagined that so many insects inhabited so small an area as that to which the bird had confined its operations. "Very well," said the instructor. "Suppose all of you get down and see how many insects you can find in 5 minutes." So while he held the watch, all proceeded to take part in a bug hunting contest. In this novel undertaking even the women of the class displayed great zeal. When time was called, it was found that one student had a credit of 14, another 16, a third 19, and one tall young woman with glasses exhibited 21 insects in the folds of her handkerchief. A stranger watching the actions of this band of eager, early-rising teachers might have been puzzled to determine what induced them to assemble at this hour of the day for the evident purpose of watching the habits and activities of small birds that the ordinary person passes without notice. They were, nevertheless, occupied in one of the most valuable studies that could have claimed their attention. For many years the United States Department of Agriculture has been employing trained naturalists to give their time to the investigation of the damage done to growing crops by the insect hosts that infest fields and forests. These and other experts have come forward with astounding statements regarding the destructiveness of birds to insects. We are told, too, that each bird is virtually a living dynamo of energy, that its heart beats twice as fast as the human heart, and that the normal temperature of its blood registers over 100 degrees. It is a simple fact of biology, therefore, that a tremendous amount of nourishing food is necessary for the bird's existence. Vast quantities of insects are needed for this purpose. Some time ago a New England gentleman became so impressed by the frequency with which a pair of robins visited their nests with food for the young that he determined to learn more about the food-consuming possibilities of the 4 nestlings. The day the offspring left their cradle he temporarily took possession of them. With the aid of some friends, who kindly undertook to dig fishworms for him, he proceeded to give the baby robins all they cared to eat between daylight and dark. He found to his very great surprise that these small birds consumed in one day food to the amount of their own weight and 56% additional. If an average-sized man were to eat at this rate, he would require 70 pounds of beef and several gallons of water daily. Upon reaching maturity the robins probably do not eat so greedily, but the incident serves to illustrate their capacity in the days of youth. The school teachers at the Knoxville Summer School who watched the chipping sparrow that morning were members of a group of earnest men and women whose lives were dedicated to the training of children. For 9 months they had been in the classroom, meeting heroically the petty trials and annoyances incident to their life work. Now, instead of spending their brief vacation in idleness, they were seeking additional knowledge to prepare them for more valuable future service. They were learning that morning the important lesson that birds are placed on earth for a useful purpose. When they returned to the schoolroom, they would teach the boys that the bird is a friend to the farmer and should not be killed nor its nest destroyed. They would teach girls that there is something far more exquisite about the living bird than is to be found in the faded luster of its feathers when sewed on a hat, and they would cultivate in the heart of the girls a feeling of sympathy for the home life of the birds about them. The greatest problem to be solved by those actively engaged in measures which make for civic righteousness is how to preserve the children of the country from evil influences, and to direct their curiosity and restless energy into safe and productive channels. The teacher occupies a strategic position in this matter, and one of her problems is how to engage the interest of the child in subjects that are both entertaining and beneficial. Simple lessons in nature study are an excellent method by which to accomplish this end, and a study of out-of-door life should begin with birds. Bird Study Class. The systematic instruction of school children in bird study on a careful scientific basis in a large way really had its origin in May, 1910, when Mrs. Russell Sage sent to the National Association of Audubon Societies a check for $5,500 with which to inaugurate a plan of bird study in the Southern schools that the writer had outlined to her. She desired that a special effort should be made to arouse interest in the protection of the robin, which in the Southern States was at that time almost universally regarded as a game bird whose natural destiny was considered to be a pot pie. Bird study, it is true, was at that time taught in many city schools, but usually the subject was given slight space in the curriculum, and for the children and teachers there was available only a limited literature, and it was of an inadequate character. A working plan was at once developed whereby literature, colored pictures of birds, and the Audubon button should be supplied to all the pupils in a school who enrolled themselves as members of an Audubon class. Each member was required to pay a nominal fee, which, however, was much less than the cost of producing the material received in return. During the school year that followed, the matter was brought to the attention of many of the Southern teachers, and over 500 junior Audubon societies resulted, with an enrollment of more than 10,000 children. Following the course of instruction outlined in the literature furnished to the teachers, these children were taught the correct names of many of the common birds, and on field walks they learned to know them by sight. The dates when certain birds were last seen in autumn and first arrived in spring were noted and carefully recorded. Food was given to the birds in winter, and bird boxes of various patterns were constructed and placed in parks, orchards, or woods, where they would most likely be of service to birds looking for suitable nesting hollows. Bird study was correlated with reading, English composition, history, geography, and even arithmetic. A nationwide movement. So successful did this experiment prove that the Audubon workers agreed upon extending this same system into the schools of all the other states in the Union and the various provinces of Canada. The fall of 1911, therefore, saw plans well under way for a greatly enlarged scope of work. During the school year, which closed the last of June, 1912, the Association, at a cost of $13,000, enrolled 29,369 school children under the standard bearing the inscription, "Protect the Birds." The movement has continued to grow, and up to June 1, 1916, there had been formed 27,873 classes with a total membership of 559,840 children. The Association is annually expending on this work $25,000 more than the children's fees amount to. Of this amount, Mrs. Sage continues to contribute 1/5, the remaining 4/5 being given by an anonymous friend of children and birds. In supplying these pupils and their teachers with the necessary pictures, leaflets, and outline drawings of birds for coloring, over 31 million pages of printed information have been distributed. Pupils have taken hold of this bird study with great zest. Many a dull or inattentive boy, who had been a despair to his teacher and parents, responded to this real nature teaching, which took him from his ordinarily uninteresting studies into the wide out of doors. Thousands of teachers have written letters filled with expressions of thankfulness for this opportunity which has come to them, and reciting details of the variety of ways in which they have been able to make use of this plan and material for bird study. What one teacher did. Here, for example, is one from Miss Beth Merritt, who teaches in a little school at Fountain City, Tennessee. I am very glad to write to you about the junior Audubon class we had at school this year. We all enjoyed it exceedingly, and I am sure it did good in the hearts and lives of the little people who were members, and in the bird world, too. A year ago I invited the children of some of the other grades to join our Audubon class, and we had over 40 members. We had our meetings on Friday afternoons after school. The class was quite successful, and we saw some direct results of its success. Several nest-robbing boys gave up that sport altogether. One boy was instrumental in bringing about the arrest of some men who had been shooting songbirds. This year I had the class only in my own grade, the second. Almost every child in the room joined, making 20 members. I had daily periods for nature study and language, and every other Friday we used these 2 periods for the Audubon class. The children were always anxious for the Audubon Fridays to come. They used often to ask, "Is tomorrow bird day, Miss Beth?" And if I answered in the affirmative, I heard